Welcome to another episode of the Quip and Convo segment of the Quip Corner with Ada. Today, I'll be spending some time with John again. You don't know who John is? Okay, you'll see his bio right after this. Join us in the Quip Corner. Or shall I say, join John and I in the Quip Corner. It's got a ring to it, right? See you in a bit. Welcome back to the Quip and Convo segments, John.
Thank you so much, Heda, for having me. It's such a joy for me to join you today.
Yes, I'm really delighted that you could join us. And I know today we're talking about another one of my quips that's related to purpose. And that's from my first book, Quip 31, which says, when you discover and decide to walk in your purpose, be aware that there will be people who want to put you down, pull you back, or push you under. Don't let them distract or detract you. Thoughts about this quip?
Yes, so when I talk about this quip, I could resonate with it a lot. Like, as you may know, or you may not know, that those who are watching me for the first time, that I'm also already authored a book on unveiling your purpose. So this topic is again so dear to my heart because I know the pain that comes in when you say yes to God's call. Because see, the problem is when you go to any motivational talk, everybody gives you the best things out there in terms of advertisement. You follow your dreams, everything is going to be on cloud nine, and things like that. And when you start with all the pump and you are so excited, you think that, oh, I have 2,000 friends on Facebook, so they're all going to share my content, I'm going to get 2,000 likes, I'm going to get 20,000 views. And then you start and you realize it's hard to get even 2 views after that. So what I want to say is, many people are thinking that I have people on my side, so I can stand by them. They're going to help me. They're going to support me. But when you actually say yes to God's call, will, and purpose, you actually realize how many people really care about you, how many people actually really are there for you. And the thing is this, like, only when you start, actually speaking, it's not when you start also, because when you start, there will be people cheering you on, yay, great job. But the real key that that people need to understand is that you need to have that urge to push in after you start.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of people who start because they have that excitement and they have all the fire from people, and then they quit in no time because they don't have the strength to move on.
Yeah.
Because the starting is always nice, but when you move on, you're going to be alone. Like when you talk about Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah, 3 people started their journey, but by the time they reached Bethlehem,
Bethlehem.
there were only Naomi and Ruth.
Ruth.
So people will be there when they start. Even if you look at Mark chapter 4, the Bible says that Jesus and the disciples set out on a boat, and the Bible says, in especially the NLT version, it says that other boats also followed.
Yeah.
But the minute you hear about the storm, you don't hear anything about the other boats. So as long as you start the journey, there'll be people cheering you on. And if you think that you can continue with people's praise, you will be destroyed by people's criticism, people's
Woo!
lack of support. So you have to remember that, very important. So your fuel to start your journey should never be based on people, because people will come and people will go. They're not going to be with you all the time. So your fuel should be set on, okay, I have to have the fire to start because God told me to do it. And also to understand that I know many people, they started, like, for example, I'm on many podcaster groups, on many YouTube groups, I'm on many speakers groups. And what I noticed is some of them, the minute they start, I was part of this motivational group, speakers group. So there was this motivational speaker who motivated everybody, and they all started with fire. They started, and some of them were doing like 2 lives, 3 lives in a day. And I used to look like a slow poach in front of them, because I like,
Yes.
I can do what I can do. I keep doing it consistently over time. And they did with like 3 lives per day, and in 3 months they stop everything that they did. You get what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
that you can start anything because you have the fire and the passion, but if you need to continue, you need to have that sense
Stamina.
of commitment.
You need the stamina to
Yeah,
continue.
you need the stamina and you need the commitment,
Yes.
because people's praise and all of that goes down, and then the real thing begins. I got this statistic that almost 1/3 of all podcasts in the world are quit after one episode. Like 1/3 of all
Wow.
podcasts in the world are quit after one episode, and
Interesting.
almost 40 to 50% of all podcasts in the world are quit after less than 10 episodes. So the whole idea is because people have started, they thought, you know what, oh, the whole world is going to cheer you. And then you realize that when you say yes to God's call, the enemy is not going to give you a red carpet. He's going to bring in opposition and discouragement. So one
Yes.
important aspect is the aspect of discouragement. And the reason I chose this is because everybody sees, okay, John, you're preached to crowds of thousands of people. But I organized meetings, and there were moments when literally nobody showed up. I preached to
Yeah.
empty chairs. Today, my podcast is okay. Sometimes mostly ranks at number one in India on some of the platforms. But there were moments when not a single person listened. And it used to be discouraging. And that's why it's so important that you don't allow people's opinions and people's support be your fuel or your guiding force. And also, you have to remember that people can come up and give a lot of opinions. Now, when you take a globe, right?
Yes.
People said that the globe was on water at some point. They said that not globe, the Earth was in water. Somebody said it's on the trunk of an elephant. Somebody said that the Earth is flat. But whether and then finally they went to space and they said this is the shape of the Earth. But just
Yes.
because people's opinions change doesn't mean that the shape of the Earth changed. So you have to
Yes.
remember that just because people have different opinions about you and they say things against you doesn't mean that you have to say, okay, fine. Oh, if you imagine the Earth's shape changed every time people change their opinion, that would be so weird to even think about it, right? So you don't have to do that. Like I heard this story of a father and a grandson who were traveling from one town to the other with a
Like a
donkey.
donkey.
So the
Yes.
father put the son on the top, and somebody
Yes.
said, "You are making the old man walk." So they
Yes.
switched places, and then they said,
Yes.
"You're making this little boy walk." By the end of the day, when they reached the place, the father and the grandson were carrying the donkey. So if
Yes.
you're allowing people's opinions to be the guiding force, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like for example, near my house there's a railway track, and every time the train goes and horns, all the dogs in the area, they keep barking, bow 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 bow. And when they do that, the train doesn't come to a halt and be like, hey, stop
Stop
barking.
barking.
The chain will continue to do what it's supposed to do, go on its journey. So people will bark no matter what you do. So don't worry, don't waste your time on those chickens or those dogs, and you continue to go where God has called you to go. Like, and one more thing I noticed is that when you talk, one of the best examples I can think of is Peter walking on water.
Yes.
Everybody talks about Peter was not that focused in walking on water.
Yeah.
No, he was not perfect in walking on water. Look at how imperfect he was. He lacked faith. He didn't look at Jesus. Don't be like Peter. But the person who wrote about how imperfect Peter was on walking on water was actually sitting on a boat.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So
Nobody talks about
Peter
the
is the only
disciples
one
who were
who
on.
made Peter is the only one who made history by walking on
Exactly.
water.
Exactly. That's the point. Nobody talks about the people who sat on a boat talking about the Peter who was not perfect in walking on water. But that's the truth. When you are a Peter taking a step by trusting God, you may not be perfect, but at least you have the audacity to walk on water, and that's what matters. I've heard a
Yes.
lot of nasty comments I've received from people. I've got a lot of abusive comments. I mean, from my family members who said so many nasty things. I faced a lot of opposition from doing my ministry. It was not easy. I used to literally cry because some of my own relationships, close ones, were torn apart because of my calling, because I said yes to what Jesus told me. but that's part of the process.
Yes.
If you thought everybody's going to cheer you on and you're saying, let everybody support me, then I'm going to start, then you'll only go to heaven and start. That's too late. So you have to be up to this. You know what? God called me to do it. I know how to pay a price, because people don't talk about the price that we pay. And that's one of the reasons
Yes.
I open up and share. I share from my life to tell people it was not easy. And
Mm-hmm.
when I tell what I go through, otherwise people think, John, for you, maybe it was lucky. Maybe your family supported you. Some people think maybe your father is a pastor and all the different things people have said. But when I tell them, actually, no, it was not the case.
Yeah.
I had this immense opposition. There were times I had to run off my home. There were times I, like faced so much of, abusive comments. And, like it actually told upon my health. It affected me. There were times it affected me with discouragement. It affected me with, like a lot of a huge deep level of suicidal tendencies, to an extent like I would walk on the road and something would push me to go and end my life. I mean, I'm telling you, it was not easy.
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
even the kind of comments people made, even from the church circles, were very, very destructive. And so, see, it's one thing when they say something that is false, okay, like that you can't do anything. But sometimes when they say something, it's actually true, it hurts more. Like what I mean is, when they said, who's going to listen to your ramblings? Okay, like one or the comments from someone. And that time, what was hurting more was that there were moments when no one was actually listening to my comments, I mean, my
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to attend your meeting? And when in reality, no one came to your meeting,
Attended.
those comments actually
Yes.
hurt you even more. But
Yeah.
that's when I realized that, okay, fine, people can say all they want to say, their comments can be there, but be like Peter. He walked on water, he made history. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Everybody, the most they can say, my friend walked on water, dude. My close friend walked on water, but they can never say they walked on water. Right? Recently, I had a renowned singer on my podcast called Holly Star, and people, I don't know who they are. Also, all the Holly Star fans, they were like, my friends, hosted Holly Star. Out of the blue, like, where were you so long, dude?
Yes.
You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
at the most, they can actually say, my friend did it, but they
Yeah.
can never say that I did it.
Yes. I hear you.
I heard the story of a man who fell into a pit. And when he fell into a pit, different people came and gave different opinions. The mathematician said, I want to calculate in what angle you fell into the pit. The tax collector came and said, did you pay taxes for falling into the pit? Another Baptist person came and said, just confess that Jesus is your savior and you'll come out of the pit. A charismatic said, just deny that you're in the pit. The what to say, the optimistic person came and said, don't worry, you'll come out of the pit. The pessimistic person said, you'll always be in the pit, you'll die here. So by the end of the day, after everybody said their comments and left, the man was still in the pit. So what I'm
Yes.
trying to say is, if you're in a pit, people will give different opinions, and that is not going to help you. You just focus on what God has for you. And see, I'll tell you honestly, I'm the person who goes out to help people. I want to give opportunities to people, and many people have taken advantage of me.
That's
And
it.
if
Yeah.
I've got into a lot of places where trust issues have come into a big problem for me. So here's the thing, my heart is like, I've helped people and they just use me, throw me, all those things, and it affects. So there was something that happened in 2018 that changed the trajectory of my life, like to the place where I found it hard to come in terms with the way people use me and throw me and all of this stuff. So at that point, what I realized is I could sit there in depression. I was in depression, going on and off with depression and all of this stuff. And that's when I took a strong firm and like, you know what? Somebody said something, somebody did something, that's all fine. Let me focus on what God has for me. And I started involving in the things, and going deep, and got into a lot of commitments in my life and ministry. And so, when your mind is preoccupied with that, you don't have time to think about the comments people made. So, the kind of comments people made, it affected, and all the different things people said. But some of the times I realized, like, I don't even know what it up to. The time they spend in criticizing me, maybe they could have done something fruitful,
With that
but they
time.
just wasted their time. Yeah. And one more thing I noticed is sometimes people make those comments because they don't know the reality. Like, for example, uh, you know, like, how do I say this? people were making comments like, oh, all these ministers are after money, for example, I'm saying. Okay, they were making comments against me, like, but when I organized meetings, I realized how much of money was involved in every single thing. Right now, today, my podcast is, on the top. I can't use a local microphone there to make that happen, right? And one more thing, if you take a bobblehead, right, it keeps shaking, with any kind of an external force that comes upon it. So if there's one word I want to tell you today is don't be a bobblehead Christian, or don't be a bobblehead. In other words, don't keep shaking for every comment that people make, and just focus on who God has created you to be. And I'm sure that you'll see the fullness of what God has for you. Don't be a bobblehead.
That is such an excellent close. Thank you, John. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks for having me, Ada. It was wonderful being with you today.
John could keep on going. And I like how he shared examples from his life, because it's easy to talk about a quip out there versus bringing it home and giving examples. So for you, are you like the friends of Peter? Or are you a Peter? Please add your comments below and let's keep this conversation going. Thanks again for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Don't be one of those who says, my friend is subscribed to Quip Corner with Ada. Be the one who your friends would say, my friend is subscribed to Quip Corner with Ada. Take care. God bless you. Bye now.